In a quiet corner of a bustling small town, there stood a modest diner called Harbor Lights, a place where locals gathered for coffee, pancakes, and the comfort of familiar faces. Every afternoon at precisely 2 p.m., an elderly woman named Eleanor would arrive. She was in her late 80s, with silver hair neatly pinned in a bun, wearing the same faded blue coat no matter the weather. She always chose the same booth by the window, the one overlooking the parking lot where she could watch cars come and go. Eleanor had been coming to Harbor Lights for years, ever since her husband, Harold, passed away a decade ago. Before that, they had eaten there together almost every day after his retirement. Harold loved the diner's meatloaf special, and Eleanor enjoyed the simple pleasure of sharing a meal with the man she had loved for over 60 years. They would sit in that very booth, holding hands across the table, talking about their garden, their grandchildren, or nothing at all. Those were the happiest times. After Harold's death from a sudden heart attack, Eleanor found herself alone in their small house filled with memories. Her children had moved to distant cities for work, visiting only on holidays. Friends had either passed on or become too frail to go out. The silence at home was deafening, especially at mealtimes. Cooking for one felt pointless, and eating alone at the kitchen table brought tears more often than not. So, she started coming to the diner. It wasn't the same without Harold, but it was something. The hum of conversation, the clink of dishes, the smell of fresh coffee, it made her feel less invisible. The staff knew her well. The manager would nod politely, the cooks would send out her usual order without asking, a bowl of chicken noodle soup, a side of crackers, and a cup of tea with lemon. Eleanor ate slowly, savoring each spoonful, gazing out the window or reading a dog-eared paperback novel she carried in her purse. She rarely spoke to anyone beyond a soft, "thank you," when her food arrived. People noticed her solitude but respected it. In a small town, privacy was a courtesy extended to the elderly. One young waiter, Alex, had only been working at the diner for a few months. He was 25, fresh out of college with a degree in graphic design that hadn't yet landed him a job in the city. He took the waiter position to pay bills while sending out resumes. Alex was kind-hearted, always chatting with customers, remembering their names and preferences. He noticed Eleanor from his first shift. She seemed so fragile, so alone, sitting there day after day like a fixture in the booth. At first, Alex served her like any other customer, polite, efficient, distant. But over time, he began to linger a bit longer when refilling her tea. "How's the soup today, ma'am?" he'd ask. Eleanor would smile faintly and reply, "Just fine, thank you." Her voice was soft, almost a whisper. Alex wondered about her story. Why did she come alone every day? Didn't she have family? He felt a pang of sympathy, remembering his own grandmother who had lived alone in her final years. One rainy afternoon, as Eleanor sat nursing her tea longer than usual, Alex overheard her on the phone. She was calling one of her children, but the conversation was brief and strained. "No, I'm fine. Yes, eating out. Don't worry about me." She hung up, staring at the rain-streaked window with misty eyes. Alex pretended not to notice, but it stuck with him. That evening, after his shift, he thought about her all the way home. The next day, something shifted in Alex. As he approached her booth with her soup, he decided to try a little harder. "Mind if I sit for a minute? It's slow right now." Eleanor looked surprised but nodded. For the first time in years, someone joined her at the table. Alex introduced himself properly, asked about her day. She hesitated at first, but soon opened up a little, talking about Harold, their life together, how the diner had been their special place. From that day on, Alex made it a point to spend a few minutes with her during each visit. He didn't do it for tips or recognition, it just felt right. Little did he know, this small act of kindness was about to ripple into something much larger, changing not just Eleanor's days, but her entire outlook on life. As weeks turned into months, Alex's conversations with Eleanor became the highlight of her afternoons. He would pull up a chair during lulls in the diner, listening intently as she shared stories from her past. She told him about meeting Harold during the war, how he was a soldier stationed near her hometown, and their whirlwind courtship. She spoke of raising 3 children, the joys and hardships, the family vacations to the lake. Alex, in turn, shared about his dreams of becoming a designer, his frustrations with job hunting, and funny anecdotes from the diner. Eleanor began to look forward to her visits more than ever. The loneliness that had weighed on her like a heavy blanket started to lift. She smiled more genuinely, even laughed at Alex's jokes. The other staff noticed the change. She no longer seemed like a ghost in the booth but a lively presence. Alex's manager teased him good-naturedly about his favorite customer, but approved of the compassion he showed. One day, Eleanor arrived looking particularly downcast. Her arthritis had flared up, making the walk to the diner painful. Alex noticed immediately and brought her an extra cushion for the booth. As they talked, she confided that her birthday was approaching, her 89th, and she dreaded spending it alone, as she had for the past 10 years. Harold always made a fuss, she said wistfully. Cake, flowers, the works. Alex's heart ached for her. That evening, Alex hatched a plan. He rallied the diner staff, the cooks, the other waiters, even the manager. He told his family about Eleanor, and they were touched. Word spread quietly in the small town. On the day of her birthday, Eleanor arrived as usual, expecting another quiet meal. But when Alex led her to her booth, it was decorated with streamers and a handmade "Happy Birthday" banner. The entire diner staff gathered, singing as they brought out a homemade cake, chocolate, her favorite, baked by the head cook. Eleanor was stunned, tears welling in her eyes. You did this for me," she whispered. Alex grinned. "We all did. Your family here now." But the surprises didn't end there. Alex had contacted Eleanor's children through an old address book she mentioned once. 2 of them, with their families, had driven in secretly and were waiting in the back room. When they emerged, calling "Mom" and "Grandma," Eleanor broke down in joyful sobs, hugging them tightly. The diner closed early that day for a private celebration. Laughter filled the air as stories were shared, photos taken. Eleanor's children thanked Alex profusely, admitting they had been too caught up in their own lives and felt guilty for neglecting her. They promised more frequent visits, even discussing helping her move closer to one of them. In the months that followed, Eleanor's life transformed. Her family reconnected deeply, planning regular gatherings. She started joining a local senior group that Alex suggested, making new friends. She even began volunteering at the library, reading to children, something she had always loved but forgotten in her isolation. Alex, inspired by the experience, found renewed purpose. His kindness toward Eleanor reminded him of the impact small gestures could have. He landed a design job soon after, but continued working part-time at the diner, always saving time for his special customers. Years later, Eleanor would say that the young waiter didn't just change her days, he gave her back her life. In a world that often overlooks the elderly, Alex's simple act of sitting down and listening proved that one person truly can make all the difference. The booth by the window remained Eleanor's spot, but now it was often filled with voices, laughter, and love.